Hi everyone, I am Smarika Azad and welcome to Legal Shiksha. This is a webinar on goods and services tax. It's a free webinar which is being organized in coordination with Mr. Amit Sharma, who has been very generous and supportive in the entire time with us. This webinar will be addressed by Mr. Amit Sharma. He is working as a legal advisor with Department of Trade and Taxes, Delhi GST, which comes under Delhi government. He holds a great educational background coming from Ramjas College of one of the prestigious colleges of Delhi University. Then he joined Delhi University again in a professional degree of law. He did his law from Campus Law Center, and then he chose National Law University, Jodhpur, for completing his LLM, and he did his LLM from National Law University. Thereafter, alongside this, he also um, completed his company secretaryship in 2016. I welcome Amit Sharma ji on the platform. Let's give over to him the entire webinar. Let's start with his session. So please, sir, do the honors.
Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So, hello everyone who all have joined this webinar. So, today we are going. I'm going to explain you in a simple, very simple language. Means in a very layman language. I'm going to explain you the hot topic in India in the indirect tax regime of India since 2017. That is GST. We call it Goods and Services Tax. So before coming to the main issue or the topics, I would like to briefly explain what is direct tax and indirect tax, because before going into GST we should know what is direct tax and what is indirect tax. So direct tax is like what you directly pay to the government. Like the best example is we have income tax. So the tax you are, being an individual, you are directly paying to the government treasury. That is called direct tax. Like property tax you have, like corporate tax you have. So you're paying directly to the government. Then comes the indirect tax. Indirect tax is what you are not paying directly to the government, but someone is paying on your behalf, like the GST. So how it works, I'll briefly explain that. Like take a transaction between A, B, C, D. Okay. So when A is selling something to B, so A is collecting the tax from B. Like if A is manufacturing something and A is selling something to B, so A is collecting tax from B and depositing it to the government on behalf of B. Likewise, when B further sells the goods to C, so B collects the tax from C and pays it to the government on behalf of C. So ultimately D, who is D? D is the customer. So ultimately the C is selling the goods to D. D is the customer. So he is again collecting the tax from the D and paying it to the government treasury. So this is the indirect tax. But ultimately the burden will go on to the customer only. The customer has to discharge the tax liability, but it is being paid by someone else, like C and then B, then A. So this is called the in brief, this is the what indirect tax mechanism is all about. So Then what was the need of GST in India? Like India has implemented in 2017 the GST. So what was the need? Why we needed this GST? So we had sales tax, we had VAT, which was implemented in 2005. So what was the need of GST? So everybody knows that for there were multiplicity of tax. Like we had VAT for the on the sales of goods, we had excise on the manufacturing, we had service tax for the services. So there were multiple of taxes. So it used to increase the compliance cost. It was hampering the investment into India, and the entities or the business entities were facing problems, and even individuals were facing problem that they had to face multiple authorities. Like they had to pay the service tax, so they had to comply with the service tax authorities norms. Then they had to pay the excise, then they had to pay the VAT. So they had to comply with number of multiple compliances. So that's why in first time in 1999, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee government was there, so they made discussion over this, that India needs GST for the first time. And then the task was given to the finance minister of the then West Bengal to frame a basic structure of GST to be implemented in India. Then number of committees came, like Kelkar committee in 2004, which further recommended the introduction of GST in India. Then gradually all the committees added their points, and finally in 2017, 1st July 2017, it was implemented in India. So now we will move forward to the constitutional background, because the whole structure of taxing is governed, everything in India is governed by Constitution of India. So when you are going to change your whole regime, whole indirect tax regime, so obviously it requires constitutional amendment. So what happened, that briefly we'll discuss that we must aware of Article 246, which deals with the three list, which contains subjects. So there is a union list, there is a state list, and there is a concurrent list. So on we are all are aware that on union list, it is the ambit of union, central government. The state list, it is the jurisdiction of state government. And concurrent list, both center and state can make laws. So before GST, the central government was completely empowered to impose tax on services and on goods. So mind it, on goods, but till the manufacturing stage. So there is a taxing event. In taxing statutes, we call it taxing event. Then when to impose the tax? The event when you have to pay the tax, when your liability arises. So we call it taxing event. So center government was empowered in union list to impose tax on services as well as on goods, but till the stage of manufacturing. And state was empowered to impose tax on sales of goods under the state list. So this was the basic structure before the implementation of GST. So to implement GST, India had to amend its constitution. So Article 246 was amended, and 246 capital A was added, which empowers central government as well as state government to impose tax on goods as well as on services. So now both state and center can impose tax on goods as well as service. I have told you the previous mechanism, and it was implemented through a constitutional amendment 101. It was passed by the parliament, and 246 was amended. Then 279 was amended. 279 capital A was introduced, in which GST Council was introduced. So GST Council is very important. GST Council is the decision-making apex body under GST, which makes recommendation to the government for for all the major decisions under GST. And see, the taxing, we have to understand the taxing event as well. So we'll come to that after this, the constitutional background. Then we would say that GST is applicable on all the goods and services, except there are some goods which are still not under GST. What are these goods? These are petroleum. So petrol price is very high nowadays because it's not under GST. They are under discussion that we have to bring petroleum under the GST so that the VAT, the excise can reduce, and the ultimately the price will decrease. So petroleum products are still under the previous regime. And then liquor for human consumption, it is still under the VAT or excise. It is not under the GST. So whenever you go to any restaurant, you will see in your invoice or in your bill that on the liquor part, the VAT is being mentioned because it's not under the GST. So these are the goods which are not in GST now. So we were talking about the GST Council. So GST Council is the apex body which consists of the chairman is Union Finance Minister, and it also consists of finance minister of all these states. So what GST Council does, it convene meetings, like periodical meetings, and in those meetings all the representative of state which are the members of GST Council, they take part, and they discuss issues, and they take decisions, they make recommendations to the government, and then government implements those recommendations, like increase in tax, increase in threshold, anything. So GST was implemented in 2017, we all know. So after this constitutional background, we came up with majorly 4 acts, 4 statutes, we call it. So first one, the major one is CGST. We call it Central or Center Goods and Services Tax Act 2017. That is CGST 2017. Then every state, because now the goods and services are both are under the ambit of center as well as state. So CGST is the Center Act for central government. Then it comes up with the state GST, SGST Act 2017. So for every state, there's a separate SGST. The CGST is the common, obviously, for whole of India, and then separate state tax. Or for union territories, we call it UTGST, Union Territory GST Act. And for Delhi, like Delhi has a special status in taxing statutes. So Delhi has state GST. Like for taxing, for tax, we consider Delhi, though Delhi is a UT, but we consider it as a state for taxing purpose. So Delhi has also implemented Delhi GST 2017. And these are the 2 acts, CGST, state SGST. Now IGST, Integrated Goods and Services Tax Act. What is IGST? IGST is basically the for imposition of tax on the interstate transactions. So for CGST is for local, like in Delhi you are supplying something. Delhi GST State Act is also for local, like for supplying intrastate transaction. But when you supply something from Delhi to Haryana for some other state, so it will be governed by IGST, Integrated Goods and Service Tax, and it is the completely jurisdiction of center. So IGST, when you supply something out of Delhi, you have to pay the IGST, and IGST is paid to the central government. We'll come to this, like how you pay and how it is being bifurcated. We'll also discuss that. So the third statute is IGST. Then the fourth one, which is for a time being mechanism, we call it GST compensation to State Act 2017. So what is this fourth act is, something different. Why? Because due to implementation of GST, some states argued that we would suffer, loss in tax, because GST is being implemented. So on some of the goods, we will suffer the loss. So the parliament passed this act, compensation to state tax. So some certain goods, on certain goods, cess is being levied. Cess, we call it cess. So it's a compensation cess. So it is paid to the state for the loss of revenue due to the implementation of GST. So these are the four major acts which were implemented under GST regime. And then number of rules, we will not go in that deep, but there are number of rules, respective rules, regulations. So this is the constitutional background as well as the legal background in a brief. Now the important aspect of GST is what has changed with the GST. Previously there was Excise Act, we all know. Excise Act is basically is a tax on manufacturing. So as I told you that in tax regime, taxing event is very important, where your liability arises, where on which point you have to pay the tax. So in excise law, you have to pay tax on the manufacturing state, right? Then the VAT, like value added tax. So under value added tax or VAT or sales tax, the taxing to sell something, when you are going to sell something, you have to pay the tax. So the taxing event is sale of goods. And for services, the taxing event is the supply of services. When you supply a service, you have to pay the tax. So before GST, it all was like origin based. Like if I'm manufacturing something in Delhi, so I have to pay the tax to Delhi, like Delhi authorities. So it's an origin based tax, where the goods, where the supply originates, or where the supplier is like doing his business. But the major change with GST has made, it has come up with the destination based mechanism. So previously it was origin based, now it is destination based. What does it mean? It means like if you are selling something from Delhi to Haryana, so you are supplying something from Delhi to Haryana, so you have to pay the tax to the Haryana authorities because your place of supply is Haryana. So it's a destination based. Previously you had to pay the tax in Delhi because it was origin based. So this is the major difference what GST has come up. So what happened with this this origin based and destination based, that the states who all are having industrial areas where the industries are like in uh, more industries are there in those states, so they argue that we will be in loss. Like previously we were manufacturing in our state, so we were getting the tax, but now it's, since it is a destination based tax, so now the other state will get the tax because the supply would be made to that state. So this issue has also come up with GST. And as I have already said that majorly there are two transactions, intrastate and interstate. So intrastate, we all know that within the state, so that is governed by like locally in Delhi, within Delhi. And interstate is like out of Delhi or out of India, even like export, import. So all those transactions are governed by IGST, as I've told you. Now we'll come to the authorities under GST, like the administration part, that how the GST will be, is being governed. So now every supply, whenever you go to any restaurant or whenever you purchase something, so you get a bill, and if you see that the tax is divided into two, like SGST and CGST. So GST has provided broadly four rate of tax, four slabs. We can say that 5%, 12%, 18%, and 28%. So these are the major tax, and some special rate of tax like 3% for gold. So whenever you go to like to purchase something, so you will be paying like 5% tax. If some, like for example, restaurant food items are being taxed at 5% now, 5% GST. So you will see in your bill that out of that 5%, 2.5% is the center part, CGST, and 2.5% is the SGST. So on the supply of food, the tax will go to both center as well as state, 50-50. So obviously the GST will be, governed by both SGST and CGST. So like, for example, if we will talk about the authorities in Delhi particularly, we'll take the example of Delhi because we all are in Delhi. So in Delhi, uh, the central CGST, central GST tax is being governed by central government, and they have, you know, they have devised administration structure in which they have divided the Delhi into four commissionerate: north, south, east, and west. Then those commissionerate are further divided into divisions, and those divisions further divided into ranges. So range is a small area, then all some ranges form division, and some, all the divisions form a commissionerate. So there are four commissionerate, separate offices, like for South and West Delhi, the office is in Bhikaji Kama place, adjacent to Hayat Hotel. So that is the office. And for East and North, the CR building, the Central Revenue Building at ITO, is the office for center. And they have divisional office, then audit office, and everything else. But four commissionerate, major commissionerate, are these. So this is the center part. Now we'll come to the state part. State part in Delhi is governed like in a single building at ITO, where I work. So what state has done? State has divided whole of Delhi into wards. Wards, we call it wards. So we have 116 wards. So whole Delhi has been divided into wards, area, like territorial jurisdiction, we call it. So state GST works like separately, and center GST department works separately. But so when being a dealer, being a taxpayer, if you're a taxpayer, so you will apply for a registration. We'll come into the registration part in brief. So when you apply for registration, either your registration will go to the state or to the center. So your registration only, but whatever you are paying to the government, it is being divided. Like if you are paying 100 rupees to government, 50 will go to the center, 50 will go to the state. But for registration purpose, for jurisdiction purpose, you may be registered under state or you may be registered under center. It's just compliance part, that you have to comply with the state authority or you have to comply with the center authority. But the tax is being divided into like both. So this is the administration part. Then the concept of GST has introduced, not introduced, but it was already there in custom, the proper officer. So the officer, the tax authority, we call it proper officer. He has the jurisdiction, all the jurisdiction over you being a taxpayer. So now we will come to the next part of this discussion, is the return part, which is very essential. Return means like your self assessment. It is a, like, previously also VAT was self assessment based mechanism. So return part is very important in GST, in any tax regime, like in income tax you file your ITR. So like in GST there are several returns, we call it compliances obviously. So first come, there are number of returns, but we will discuss in brief the normal returns. Like there are returns for composition dealers, there are returns for uh, like other type of dealers or taxpayer, but we'll discuss the returns which are in general. So first come is GSTR1. GSTR1, like GST return 1. So what is GSTR1? GSTR1 is the statement of your outward supply. So whatever you are supplying, you will file it, you will furnish it in your GSTR1. So it's a statement of your outward supply. As I have told you that the GST is supply based. The place of supply is important because it is a destination based. So whenever you read GST, you will see everywhere supply of services, supplier, recipient. So GSTR1 is basically your outward supply. So it has to be filed, you know, monthly as well as quarterly. So for small taxpayer, government has given this relief that you don't need to file it monthly after every month. You can file it every quarter. So GSTR1 is both monthly as well as quarterly, based on the turnover, based on your aggregate turnover, annual aggregate turnover. So GSTR1 is this. It's and then comes GSTR2, GST return 2. What is GSTR2? GSTR2 is your whatever you are getting. Like one is whatever you are supplying. GSTR2 is whatever you are getting, whatever is being supplied to you during that particular month. So it is being furnished in GSTR2. But government has not made it operational. Like at present, GSTR2 are not being filed because only GSTR1 are being filed by the taxpayers. So GSTR1, GSTR2. So these are the statements, these are the summaries. Okay. Then comes the return, the actual return. GSTR 1 and 2 are only statement, not returns. Return is directly filed by the taxpayer. So whenever you file a GSTR return, the is calculated and you have to pay the tax by filing GSTR 3. And again, GSTR 3 is also not being made operational till date. So the government, because it was a new tax regime, so the taxpayer were not like very aware. So every return is not operational till date. Only few returns are made operational to facilitate the taxpayer. So because compliances will be high and the new tax regime, they will be like, they will be in trouble. So GSTR 1 is in operation nowadays from the beginning, since the beginning. GSTR 2 is not in operation till date. GSTR 3, which is the return, which is the actual return, is not in operation. What government has done for GSTR 3, like for return, they have introduced GSTR 3B, 3B, capital B. So every taxpayer has to file a GSTR 3B, which is the return, monthly return. So by every 20th of your month, you have to file GSTR 3B for the previous month. Like for March, for March month, you have to file your GSTR 3B by 20th April. Okay, and you pay your liability, you pay your taxes by filing your GSTR 3B only. Otherwise, you will be penalized, late fee would be imposed, and all. So these are the returns. Then comes the annual return. Like these are the monthly returns. Like, see, GST, the major problem in in implementation of GST was, like, taxpayer were complaining that number of returns have been devised. So they were facing that we have to file GSTR 1, GSTR 2, GSTR 3, then this. So return is complicated somehow, I believe. So then comes GSTR 9. GSTR 9 is the annual return. So you are filing GSTR 3B monthly. Then for a whole financial year, you have to file a annual return. So chapter close after filing annual return, the chapter close for the financial year, that particular financial year. So that we call GSTR 9, the annual return. So these are the returns in brief. There are number of other returns for composition dealer, for distributors, for TCS dealers, tax collection collected at source, TDS dealer. There are number of other returns, but in general, these are the returns in brief. Then we will move forward to the authorities under GST, or we call it the alternate remedy. For lawyers, it is the most important part, that what are the authorities, what are the remedies, what are the statutory remedies under GST. So before moving to this topic, we have missed the registration part under GST, which is very important. So all you will think that who all need to be registered under GST. So GST has provided two or three modes of registration. One is the threshold limit. Threshold limit is like, if your aggregate annual aggregate turnover crosses a threshold limit set by government, then you must register yourself with the under GST. That limit is 20 lakhs provided by act. That limit is 20 lakhs for like normal states. So it is pan based. Like whole GST is pan based, I must tell you. Whole GST is pan based. So aggregate turnover is calculated on a single pan. Like it is, no. And for special states, the threshold limit is 10 lakh, not 20 lakh. Special states are like Manipur, northeastern states, or the hilly area like Himachal. So these are the special states. So there the threshold limit is 10 lakh. So if your aggregate turnover crosses 10 lakh, you must register yourself under GST. This is the, like, threshold based registration. Then comes the compulsory registration. Like your turnover may be like below 20 lakhs or below threshold limit. Even then you have to get yourself registered. Why? Because you are, like, there are certain criterias. Like if you are making interstate supplies, like for example, your turnover is less than 20 lakhs, but you are supplying goods to Haryana from Delhi. So you are making some interstate supplies. So you have to get yourself registered under GST. So there's a compulsion. So this is called the compulsory registration criteria. This is the second one. The third one is voluntary. Like my turnover is zero. I'm not doing anything nowadays. Or I may be, my turnover may be like 1 lakh, 2 lakh, but I want to get registered under GST. So it's a voluntary registration. I go and I can take registration under GST. So this is a registration part. We missed it. We had to discuss in the beginning, but we missed it. So this is the registration part. Now we'll come again to the alternate remedies, which is very important for the lawyers. So as I have told you, the concept of proper officer, the main adjudicating authority. the jurisdictional officer who exercise jurisdiction, who exercise all the powers and functions over you being a taxpayer. So first one is the most important is proper officer. Then a concept which I won't say it has been introduced, but because it is already there in income tax, it was already there in previous regime. It is called advanced ruling. So it is very interesting or very important authority, advanced ruling authority, double AR, AAR, we call it in short. What is advanced ruling authority? Advanced ruling authority is like it is like getting a ruling in advance, as the name suggests itself, that you are getting some ruling in advance. Like I am a taxpayer, and I don't know if I'm supplying, if I'm going to supply this pen, I don't know whether it is covered under 5% or 12%. I don't know. So this advanced ruling has been provided to solve this issue. So I will make an application to the advanced ruling authority with a fees of 5,000, and I will ask them that, see, this I'm going to supply, I'm going to manufacture this pen, and I'm going to supply this pen. So what will be the rate of tax on this pen? Please tell me. Or I am supplying some goods. I don't know whether I have to register under GST or not. So I'll make an application to the advanced ruling in advance, that I want to know that whether I have to register myself or not. So this is the authority which consists of officers, like officers from central government as well as state government. So they will give me a hearing, like it's a court type hearing, where they will sit and I have to present my case. I will argue. Someone from the government will also argue, and they will decide that whether this pen will be taxed at 5% or 12%. So this is advanced ruling, ruling in advance. And then I can see, if I get a decision I am not happy. So what next? There is an appellate authority as well, appellate authority for advanced ruling, triple AR. So I can appeal against that order before triple AR. Like I am not happy. I thought that this pen would be taxed at 5%, and this double AR has said that this would be taxed at 12%. I'm not happy with this. So I'll appeal against that order before triple AR. So this is the second authority. Then comes the appellate authority, like advanced ruling and advanced ruling appellate authority is a completely separate thing. Like they have their authority, they have their appellate authority. So this is the separate thing. Now comes the normal, like proper officer. Some officer has made some decision, some officer has passed decision against you. So what would be the first appellate authority? Under section 107, there is an appellate authority where you can make an appeal within 3 months of passing that order. And even a government can make an appeal before appellate authority. Like their officer has passed some order and government or commissioner or the department is not happy with the order of proper officer, so they can also make an appeal before appellate authority. So they get 6 months for that, because being a government they get some extra time. And for applicant, for normal taxpayer, the time period is 3 months. So you have to make an appeal within 3 months. And appellate authority had discretion for extending that 3 months by further 1 month on sufficient cause, that limitation act section 5, sufficient cause, but for 1 month only. So 3 plus 1 4, and for government it's 6. And most important is, for making an appeal you have to deposit 10% of the disputed amount. It is must. Like some officer has passed a demand of tax of 5,000, and you have deposited 10% of that amount. So you have to make an appeal within 10 days. So appellate tribunal. So appellate tribunal, it works with the benches. like they have national benches and state benches. So national bench, they only decide, national bench will only decide the issue of place of supply. So if any dispute arises on the place of supply, because place of supply in beginning I have told you that in GST it's a destination based tax. So place of supply is most significant under GST. So national bench will decide only the issue pertaining to the place of supply, nothing else. And then the state benches, like in every state you have to form the tribunal, the state GST tribunal, which will decide your all other issues. Like place of supply will be decided by national bench, and all other issues will be decided by the state GST tribunal. So for so for making an appeal before appellate tribunal, you get 3 months, and it can be extended by further 3 months on sufficient cause. So you get 3 plus 3. And if the amount of like your this, so this is the tribunal part. Then if you are aggrieved, like old concept, then high court, after high court you can appeal before Supreme Court. So these are the statutory remedies under GST. Like it starts with the proper officer, then the appellate authority, first appellate authority, then the appellate tribunal, then the high court, then the Supreme Court. So you have all these statutory remedies under GST. So now we'll move to the last part of our discussion, that is GST and COVID pandemic. So this pandemic has also affected the GST as well. So as we have already discussed, there are number of compliances under GST, and they are very strict on time. Like the dates are like fixed. Like for by 20th you have to file this return, for by 10th you have to file this return. But suddenly when in March lockdown was declared, so government also came up with the some relief for the for the taxpayer. So first relief, which was if I'm correct, which was passed on 23rd March, was the ordinance. So it calls it is termed as taxation laws ordinance 2020. So in GST, what changes it has made? It has introduced section 168 capital A, which empowers government to extend the time limit for compliances for any time limit provided under the act. So it empowers the government to extend the time. So this was the first major relief which was introduced in the beginning of lockdown. Then government also came up with the notifications, several notifications and circulars. And first, they have extended the time limit of compliances which were falling between 20th March and June. So if your any time limit falls between 20th March and say 29 June, so that time stands extended till August. So this was the second major relief given by central government to all the taxpayers. Then they came up with the waiver of interest. Like for late payment of tax, you have to pay the interest as well. But government come up with the conditional waiver of interest. So they have come up with the conditions, like if you're falling within these dates, and you may file your return, you may pay your tax after due dates, but by some fixed date. You cannot extend time limit like beyond that date. But if you are paying your tax within those dates, you will get the waiver of interest. Then government came up with the conditional waiver of late fees. So if you are filing your returns late, you have to pay the late fees. it calculates, it is being calculated like per day. So government came up with the, you know, conditional waiver of late fees as well. And like for filing appeal, you are aware that Supreme Court has taken the suo moto cognizance of the situation, and they have already extended the time limit for filing any appeal, any application before the courts as well as authorities. So it was also a blanket relief given by Supreme Court itself under Article 142. So these are the major reliefs which were given by the central government. And even at present, like on in August, most of the time limit has been already extended till 31st August. So taxpayer can still file their returns, still file their reply, still file their applications in this extended period of time. So obviously COVID has affected all of us, and taxpayer in particular. So government was like aware of these things. So they have come up with the all these all notifications are available on CBIC website. So one can go onto those like websites and can check. It's very simple. They have mentioned in very simple language in a tabular form that you are, if you are falling between these dates, so your time has been extended till that date. So these are the major relief given by central government. So I think we have covered number of topics, and in brief, I believe that I have been able to, you know, explain in a simple language that what is GST all about. And trust me, there it is very uh, it is very simple law, but at the same time it's very complicated law. So there are a number of topics that one may cover. It's a, you know, 174 sections, and each topic is, you know, so deep. So much discussion over this is going on by experts. So I don't know, I have been able to, you know, cover up. But yes, the idea was to give a brief, to give a brief knowledge about GST, to give you a brief knowledge, brief, you know, explanation in a simple language, so you can understand that this is GST. Okay, these are the authorities, these are the remedies. And see, there are a number of topics. I have said that there are a number of topics we can't cover in one, like 30 minutes or 1 hour. But yes, so
Thank you, Amit sir, for having this kind of discussion on our platform. There is one question that was in my mind when you were telling us about petroleum products. So basically, you said it will become cheaper if it comes under the GST regime, because
yes.
there are a lot of other taxes that are levied on the petroleum products, and this is why they become more of expensive in the when it went to the customer itself. So, what are your opinions in that? If we talk about that, why government is not pulling that product into the GST regime?
Because they're getting tax. They are
Yeah,
getting, for simple reason, they are getting revenue. If they
yeah.
will, you know, if they will they will bring petroleum products or liquor. See, uh, out of all the goods,
Mhm.
the source of the major source of revenue for any government is liquor and
And
petroleum
petrol, yeah.
products.
Hmm.
So I mean, I can say that deliberately or intentionally, these goods were, you know, kept outside the ambit of GST.
Yeah, yeah. A
So
lot of
if,
debate also goes around this.
yeah, they have not completely wiped out the possibilities of, you know, bringing these products in under GST, but they have deferred, like
Mhm.
deferred for some years, uh, these products. But obviously, like now, if you go to, you know, liquor, to buy a liquor, they have already, the supplier has already paid the excise tax, they
Mhm.
he has already paid the VAT, and the ultimately burden is on you.
Mhm.
So if it will come under GST, the flat rate will be applicable. Like if it
Yes.
will come under the 18%, so you have to pay only 18%.
18%.
And
Yes.
I'm very much sure that at present the tax on petroleum is like above 30 or above 35% in a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
obviously it will be beneficial for customer, but maybe not beneficial for the government.
I mean,
So they are definitely.
in like some days back, it was 70% also. People were buying then also. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's the thing that it's the necessity and people are going to buy it. That's also affect the regime that it is going to be in. So
yeah.
that's one thing. Um, there's also this news rolling around that earlier the cap of rupees 20 lakh was there for coming into the GST regime, but now the cap is being increased to rupees
40
40
lakhs.
lakh.
Like
Yeah.
for small and medium enterprises, they have already increased this threshold limit. So government may revise these threshold limits. So recently, finance minister has said that they are they have considered these threshold limit to 40 lakhs
Mhm,
as well for
mhm,
other dealers. So they may revise from time to time as per the the requirement of the recommendation of council and what the market thinks.
mhm. Thank you, sir. This was a very informative and knowledgeable session that we had on our platform. Thank you for joining us, and we will be seeing you more with more informative topics that you came up
Sure.
with, and we would like to enlighten our viewers also about it. Thank you for
Sure.
joining us.
Thank
It
you.
was a
Thank
very
you for your
informative.
patience. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for the opportunity. And I would love to come again and again for such, intellectual discussions over any topic. Like, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.